Découvrez le Hub Meet Africa, la plateforme digitale d'orientation et d'information des entrepreneurs de la diaspora africaine. Vous recherchez des opportunités d'affaires, des programmes d'accompagnement technique ou financier, de l'information, des partenaires, des experts ou des consultants locaux? Conçu par et pour ses utilisateurs, le Hub Meet Africa met à votre disposition gratuitement une cartographie simplifiée des dispositifs d'appui, quel que soit l'état de maturité de votre projet, le secteur couvert, le pays visé et vos besoins d'accompagnement. Identifiez des partenaires et experts basés dans le pays de résidence ou d'installation de votre projet d'entreprise et obtenez des conseils sur mesure et des retours d'expérience pour le mener à bien. La recherche d'offres d'accompagnement n'a jamais été aussi simple. Les offres du Hub Meet Africa proposent des informations ciblées et pertinentes à tout entrepreneur de la diaspora désireux d'entreprendre en Afrique. Concrétisez vos projets business grâce aux outils collaboratifs et partagés. Positionnez votre projet grâce à l'outil d'aide à l'orientation. Accédez à des ressources efficaces et vérifiées pour comprendre le marché local et développer votre business. Entrez en relation avec les organismes d'appui à l'entrepreneuriat, les mentors, les experts, les investisseurs et tous les acteurs au service de l'entrepreneuriat de la diaspora en Afrique et en Europe. Interagissez avec les membres de la communauté à travers un post-it board et bien plus encore. Vous avez des idées et des rêves en Afrique? Vous souhaitez partager votre expertise et vos compétences? Rejoignez la communauté du Hub Meet Africa.
Bonjour à tous. Bienvenue.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to this Meet Africa webinar. We're going to spend about 1 hour together about how to share skills and how to capitalize talents from diaspora. My name is Virginie Ruyer. I am project manager for Meet Africa in ANIMA, and I also represent the Bureau Maroc, the office in Morocco that has been opened recently. We are here to share good practices. Let me share my screen. I hope that you can all see my screen. Okay, so let's start with some housekeeping to make sure that this webinar runs smoothly. This webinar is going to be held in French.
You can click on the planet icon that you will find on the bottom of your screen. Je vous invite pendant tout le déroulement de ce webinaire à couper.
During this webinar, please switch off your mics so that there is no interference, no sounds, and if you want to take the floor, do not hesitate to contribute, to write in the chat, because we'll be very happy to take your questions at the end of the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and you will be able to watch it again in English and in French on the YouTube channel that ANIMA has. It will be uploaded later. And first of all, before getting down to the topic, let me just speak about ANIMA, ANIMA Investment Network. It is an association, a not-for-profit association working in economic cooperation in Europe and the Middle East and Africa. It is a network of more than 7 organizations spread across 22 countries with political stakeholders, different organizations, investment agencies, innovation hubs, consultants, experts, businesses, and startups. and investors as well. ANIMA works with its member to tackle common challenges and to promote investments in the Mediterranean area, so Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. It is a network of experts coming from with 400 specialists, with a team of 17 people based in Marseille, and also from today Morocco and in Lebanon. So, speaking more precisely, more specifically about the Meet Africa project, the Meet Africa project aims at creating value in Africa. It is a project financed by the European Union and the Agence Française de Développement, and with the participation of ANIMA, GIZ, and the Presidential Council for Africa. The program of Meet Africa targets entrepreneurs of the diaspora in 6 countries who would want to be involved. So 6 African countries. This is the first pillar of the program aiming at capacity building and for entrepreneurs in Africa. The second pillar is it targets organizations supporting entrepreneurs of the diaspora, and the second pillar targets at strengthening expertise and skills of the supporting organizations, but it also wants to give more visibility in order to help entrepreneurs in their business projects in their countries of origin. In the framework of this project, different tools have been implemented. ANIMA worked on this project, namely in the development of a digital platform, a Euro-African platform to give information to entrepreneurs, but also to do networking, so networks between entrepreneurs and organizations. There will also be a forum. I'll give you more information in a minute. The Forum of Entrepreneurs of the Diaspora that will take place in Paris at the 11th of February at the Palais des Congrès with 1,500 visitors. Now, speaking about the platform, Hub Meet Africa. It has been developed in the last 12 months, more or less. It gives information to entrepreneurs, diaspora entrepreneurs, and it targets the mentioned countries. That the aim is to give information and to gather diaspora entrepreneurs and also supporting organizations in African countries. That information is targeted to entrepreneurs, and it's the result of the work that has been implemented over the last 12 months involving entrepreneurs, but also organizations. Many workshops have been held in ever since 2021 to create this platform. And the target of this platform is to give precise replies, precise answers to meet the needs of entrepreneurs and different stakeholders and targets in general. So we are working on the second version of this hub. We are already using it. Also, we are very happy to have your feedback. Please let us know if you have any remarks, witnesses, and please let us know what you think about this platform. So you can find the platform on Hub Meet Africa. This is the address. And then, as I said, there will also be a forum of entrepreneurs, diaspora Diaspora Entrepreneurs. It will take place on the 11th of February 2023 at the Palais des Congrès in Paris, Porte Maillot. It's going to be a full day from 8:30 to 7 p.m. We are going to speak about all that is needed to create value in Africa. The idea is to capitalize on entrepreneurs from diaspora, but also in public and private investors and organizations. The idea is that they can meet up during this important event that is going to welcome 1,500 and also more, even more visitors. There will be 300 booths coming from different countries with investors, representatives of training. There will be workshops, networking sessions in order to do networking, and there will also be other opportunities for entrepreneurs to do their pitch. And so I invite you to register to participate in this forum. You can find on the slide the address forum.hub/meetafrica.co. So you can find here the program for today. That is how to activate skills, capitalize skills and expertise for entrepreneurs diaspora. We have 3 speakers. We're very happy to have them today by alphabetical order. We are going to start with Samir BOUZIDI, who is the CEO and founder of the Impact Diaspora startup based in Dakar. Samir is also promoter of the Diaspora Africa Tour, that is a program taking place in 20 countries in Africa, starting in 2019, and it will continue its progress. It will keep on developing until 2023. We also have Naoufal CHAMA, who is founder and president of Startup Maroc, who is in charge of actions of Digimarine in office in Africa and in the Middle East. And we also have Alioune Sène, who is co-founder of Bridging Angels and administrator of IOKA Holding, also founder of SENE and CA. So let me give the floor to the first speaker by alphabetical order, Samir BOUZIDI. The idea is today to speak about solutions and tools that can be used to capitalize competencies and funding of talents from the diaspora. But before that, we could start speaking about the current situation. What are the shortcomings? And we will be very happy to hear what the 3 speakers will have to say about this. And they are going to offer some solutions. They're going to speak about current resources available that can help meet these needs and close the present gaps. And they will also suggest some solutions. Samir, the floor to you. Thank you, Virginie. Hello, all participants. I am based in Dakar. So speaking about the issues that have been introduced, well, in most countries in Africa, both in the north and in the south of Africa, public statistics do not enable us to track investors, any kind of investors of diaspora. So with the exception of Morocco, we have just empirical data, and they show us that the trend is not really good in terms of mobilization collecting and capitalization of skills and funding because of ecosystem. Perhaps English-speaking countries have more transnational character. So we just have empirical data. There are sometimes 100, perhaps 1,000 projects per year, but these investments are not very well structured. So we are speaking about small investments to enabling a household to be independent in, for example, agriculture. So we are really speaking about between 60 and 80% of flows that are small-scale projects, agriculture and other sectors. Then what could enable us to speed up? What could increase the dynamic? Well, it's not an easy question, but in my opinion, as a person working in this sector in the last 15 years, I think it's more of a problem of ecosystem rather than resources, because in Africa, the ecosystem can be complicated because, I mean, for foreign investors, we have ecosystems that are too much oriented on big accounts, while on the other hand, investors from diaspora are addressed to small, very small or small and small enterprises, small and medium enterprises. So we're speaking about less than 50,000 euros. The diaspora investor is really rarely an entrepreneur in France or in its hosting country. He would like to go back, to come back to his country of origin. And I would say that, in my opinion, we need to keep this in mind. And then the weakest link, the biggest problem, tropism, that is an obstacle, that is believing that the biggest problem is funding. Well, funding is really important, yes, but the biggest shortcoming, the biggest problem is that, sorry, there are not very many entrepreneurs in the country of origin. So I think that the problem is to come up with the right idea. It could be something related to food, agriculture, doesn't matter. In Africa, there is something that is missing in this sector, that is economic media, because when you have a solid economic media, well, diaspora entrepreneurs can really think about opportunities, investing opportunities. Today, this is missing. So, for example, if there is somebody who is a manager in Paris or in Germany, whatever, what can be interesting for my country, what is feasible, because everything, all this information is important. Well, then you know what are the obstacles, funding, access to funding, regulation or legislation, sorry. And then, for example, our friends from Cameroon, if they want to invest in their countries of origin, they need a visa. So administrative obstacles, bureaucracy, corruption, that is also an obstacle. So the diaspora is made of people who know their countries of origin much better than the others. And then there are obstacles linked to families. Entrepreneurs know it. If they want to invest in their countries of origin, well, their families are going to say, well, you need to hire your brother, your cousin. So it's complicated, especially because we do not have very many structural strategies. I'm not speaking now about countries of origin. Countries of origin do not have a dedicated strategy as for diaspora. There are some principles, there are some general tactics or strategies. The problem is that very often patriotism is underestimated. Sometimes you could hear, for example, you're from Ivory Coast, please come back and invest in your country of origin. But then there is this neo-diaspora segment, even though it doesn't really mean anything because there are different segments in ethno-marketing. And there is also the segment of neo-nationals, so ex-students who have decided to stay in their countries, hosting countries. And this segment doesn't have the same characteristics of other segments. First generation workers, they are more qualified because they have studied and they are going to invest in the countries of origin just if they have the necessary guarantees, if there is profit. Of course, there is an emotional component because, well, this is important, but this is not enough. And this is not understood enough by countries of origin who, as I said before, they could have an approach that does not correspond to the diaspora, or diaspora entrepreneurs will just say, okay, they will work with just embassies and they will invest in their countries of origin thinking that it's going to work. We do not have lots of statistics, as I said, but the situation is not so well. I travel a lot. I work with lots of IPAs, and there are not so many flaws. We need to be honest. Not so much investment. I'm speaking about structural, solid investment in technologies, for example, in food, energy, agriculture, health, and so on and so forth. So it's not enough. And so, Samir, if I understand, okay, I understand what is the weakest link, or rather weakest links. This is how it is. This is why it is important to develop knowledge. What are solutions that you propose to strengthen resources so that there are more adapted tools for investment for diaspora?
It's not a recipe, as you know, diaspora is a skeptic community, so you need time, you need to build up trust, and there are as many truth, as many situations, as many countries. Cameroon and Togo have different situations because of their political status, of course. So everything that will permit a diaspora to identify opportunity, to create programs is not only startup. You also have to work, for instance, in agriculture. Before working in tech, customarily you work with agriculture. So there should be a better financial communication in the countries of the diaspora to inform investors. We should also try to dismantle or make leaner all the administration and the barriers that exist, every opportunity that there is through the consulates and other system to be able to invest in the country of origin should be fostered. And also the network, it's important. There is a distinction in between the diaspora and the previous investors, because neo-diasporans do not want to rely on their families anymore. We have to deal today with people that are between 35 and 40 years of age. They are highly qualified. They want professional solutions, good investment, and they also want to isolate their investment in respect to their family of origin in most cases. So once again, we embarked in a new round, in a new journey, I would say. We have to make communication today, invest today, in order to harvest all of this in 5 to 6 years. Is a marathon, and it's full of obstacles. Thank you very much, Samir. So to strengthen the ecosystem in Africa, develop the knowledge about diasporas and in the origin country, strengthen also the visibility and opportunity in terms of media to disseminate more information in order to have a higher mobilization and to fill the gaps in the environment. That's what you propose. Mr. Chamaz, could you give us your opinion and take stock of the situation and mobilization of investments in the different diaspora and the solution you propose to develop new opportunities and to support investors? Thank you very much for the invitation. Maybe I will start to give some figures and some precision information so that our reflection is closer to reality. In all the among all the transfer in the diaspora, 14% start in investment. 14% is an important figure, but when we look into the detail, there is a study from HCP dating back to 2019. We see that division in this 14%, commerce and agriculture are respectively 25 and 17%, and industry at less than 2.5%. So we are on really non-structuring investment. Everything that is innovation, startups, and was not covered by the HCP, but is not impacting, is not penetrating for the moment. So, of course, the investment in the diaspora is quite important in certain sectors, but these are non-structuring sectors for the moment. Now, in terms of funding, following an IND study, when people want to invest in the diaspora in Morocco, half of them, they come with their own money, they auto-fund them, and they complete this with a bank loan in most cases. This leads me to another point, which is highlighted several times, and these are the constraints in respect to the origin country. There was a study in 2013 on IFD. They looked at micro investment in Morocco, and they highlighted corruption, long administrative procedures, lack of pertinence and action of the justice system in the country, difficulty to find the markets, and so on and so forth. These shows us by discussing with the diaspora now, they always have these perspectives, but when they are then on the field, as an example, I am in Morocco since 2006, and we work with the administration, and I was never victim of a case of corruption. So I would like to say that there is a collective idea on corruption and constraints, but the reality is different from this vision. Another constraint that seems important to mention is that when we have in front of us people that want to invest in the diaspora, they want to invest, but without coming to live to Morocco, for instance. They want to invest, they come for several weeks, and then they say that is never easy to invest, but maybe they didn't put the necessary effort. There is always a will to say that it's too difficult to invest, but the decision is never picked fully. You asked a question before on the different mechanisms. For the diaspora, there is a mechanism that never worked that is called MP Invest for the diaspora, but it didn't ever work properly. But in Morocco, we have more or less 60 funding mechanisms covering several sectors. We have programs to foster investment through better investment conditions, financial conditions. We have programs to foster investment for innovation that are mainly managed by the CCG and the new organization that should be issued in January, February, in between 60,000 to 1.2 million dirham. These are large investments. We didn't have the opportunity to have these before. Then there is another program for guarantees that is managed by the CGG. Funding and co-funding programs is done by Maroc PME. There is a program for the public sector and also programs for training managed by the NAPEC and some from Maroc PME. So there are so many means to fund a project or to support a project, but when we get to the field, there are two main constraints. The first one is that the diaspora do not pick the decision, do not decide to come back live in the country. And secondly, they do not know the mechanism quite well. And the third one is that these mechanisms are useful, but they are really difficult to implement. There are a lot of constraints, but it exists. So it is important to develop dedicated media, as Samir was saying, to help inform people on the available processes and programs, whilst fostering the funding and the coming back to live in the country. Now, this leads us to a discussion on what are the states, the governments doing, because financial ecosystem are quite active in wanted to create diaspora program, but what are the governments doing? So we need to highlight the visibility of what is in place and give them more space online and digitalize all the mechanism, informing them on the available options. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much, Naoufal. Now I'd like to propose to give the floor to Liud. Alioune, are you with us? Yes, I'm here. Hello. Alioune, sorry. Yes, hello, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here with you and to be able to talk about these topics because today I'm convinced, as I think you are, that competences and fundings are key for to create the ecosystem we want to create, and today these skills and funding can be available. These are resources that are available for the diasporas, and I think it is important to think how to tap into these skills and funding. Now, to take stock of the situation, my taking stock is based on my experience. Without annoying you with my life, I will say what Samir said. I'm a neo-diaspora after my studies. After I completed my study, I started a job in France, but I was only working in France. I was in a business bank, and I today support companies in looking for funding and in acquisitions and sales of companies. After 10, 11 years, I restarted working on the African continent, and I supported startup in their search for funding. What I have seen when I started working in my origin countries is that we have a lot of investors that invest in startups, because that's what I know. But all these investors have a low stage of maturity. They are a later stage in the life of a young company. Today, all these stakeholders will fund A series or the beginning, and the entrepreneur has to already have done some work in order to tap into the available fund. The result is that not many companies are funded, whilst we have an ecosystem with a lot of startups. One of the reasons why there were not enough companies that would abide to all the criteria is because today a young company has to test models in order to create one's proof of concept and to obtain its market fit. All these steps are steps where the entrepreneur has to think, has to test several things. These require funding, and at least from what we see in West Africa, which is the market that I know better, there are no many funds for this stage. There is also a question of skills today, and I'm talking about skills. Maybe it's more a question of experience. In this ecosystem, we do not have entrepreneurs that had the opportunity to work on a project, to create a project, and to sell a project. So this is something that entrepreneurs do not have, and this complicates the development of their projects. So this is my vision of the current situation. I think that today diaspora have a role to play on funding, but also on the upskilling of the country, on bringing new skills to the country. And in respect to this, the solution that we could imagine, that we could envisage, it's the business angels groups. So today, a group of business angel investing in African startups will bring a funding, but also in terms of skill, they will be able to help the companies develop and overcome all the obstacles and bring in the company to a point where the company will abide to all criteria and will be able to tap into the existing funding. I'm part of a group called Bridging Angels, which is a group of business angels working on diaspora. So even though my activity impedes me to take part in this a lot today. That's what we do. We give not only initial funding, but also we consult and help in upskilling and finding the right skills in the country. We supported 8 startups and we invested more than 300,000 euro. I can show you the impact we had up until now. This is one of the initiatives. There are others, of course, but today, in order to mobilize diaspora, business angels can be a really good solution. And the advantage of having business angels behind your back is that you're not alone. As Samir said, there is a lot of will to invest, but you don't know where to invest, you don't know how to invest. And business angels can bridge this gap and allow you to work with a group that is competent, because normally it is made by young managers of African origin, and they will help you to invest in Africa. You will be able to test several things, and these groups can have a larger impact, in my opinion, in the not only mobilizing funds, but also in finding the right skills. So this allows sharing our experience on concrete data and to bring the information we'll lack, the information you don't have when you try to invest from your new country in your origin country. So this is really a rich in information. I have a question for the three of you in terms of opportunity to bring skills and funding to your origin country. For funding, we spoke about the fact that essentially there were only big tickets, and we should envisage intermediate funds or starting capital.
Sure. Just to tell you more about this problem related to funding. The funding that exists today, well, the amounts are associated to the degree of maturity. More beyond 5 million euros, there are many actors. Below this amount, there are very few actors. For example, between 100,000 and 300,000, there are very few actors. There is no organization below this amount that is formalized, and the need of startups in general is between 20 and 200,000 euros. This amount is used to focus on the work so that the entrepreneur can focus on its activity, and he does not need to do other things. So it's an amount that is used to test his ideas, to really focus on what he's doing to see if it works or not, and then to focus on what does work. So we do not need a very large amount in this phase. But today, if we want to get an amount of less than 300,000 euros today in Africa, in Western Africa, it's not easy. That is really the problem of the funding sector, because if you do not manage to work on this first step, you are not able to work and to go to the next step. Thank you very much to every one of you, to all the three speakers. Now, if you have any questions, if our participants have questions to the speakers, please do not hesitate to raise your hand or to write your question in the chat so that they can answer your questions. If you participants have any suggestions, solutions, resources that you would like to share, that can be helpful because they meet the needs and they can help strengthening competencies, expertise and skills that can help diaspora entrepreneurs, please let us know. Our audience is really calm. Do you represent any organizations that can speak about solutions? Do you offer any solutions, your organization? Very well. Stéphane would like to take the floor. Stéphane, the floor to you, Stéphane. Over to you. Thank you. I listened to the speakers. Thank you very much for your speeches. Well, solutions. The intermediation, I would like to suggest to have intermediation. It could play a crucial role between diaspora and the different countries to present the different opportunities. Because these actors know the field, know administration and the opportunities on the ground. So they can really create the link between the two, the diaspora and the countries of origin. And intermediation, yes. This was also just suggested by Alioune and Samir. It is really important to develop services that can really remove bottlenecks, administrative problems that stop the process. If I may, I'd like to add something about this topic. In hosting countries, there are embassies or consulates that could very much improve their role. They could be trained to support businesses in a better way. I think that we could draw inspiration from countries such as Canada, enabling expats, and because experts are helped to create a business also with the collaboration of consulates. Why consulates? Because today challenges have changed for Africa. Because for Africa, there are issues related to development and there are administration of proximity. Well, in some cases, there is also a problem of distrust, and it will be an opportunity to get close to the community. And I could take the example of Cameroon. There is the embassy in France where there is an office, a centralized office that can collect all ideas and initiatives. I think that these administrations need to evolve. It is indeed a form of intermediation. Diaspora would they need trust. Do not forget that these diaspora entrepreneurs, 40 up to 50% of them are born abroad. So in some cases, they have lost a bit their contact with their countries of origin. It's a double culture. Yeah, we need to bear this in mind. I have a question. Ikrem Makni asked a question. Sorry if I mispronounce your name, Ikrem Monkey. Do you have a platform that collects and give more values to projects implemented by diaspora, and in order to help look for partners? So a platform showing and collecting all projects of diaspora. As for Morocco, no, the answer is really easy. No, this platform does not exist. It is a really English-speaking platform. It is developed in Scotland and Ireland. It also works in Mexico and Colombia. I would say that it's an English, it's something related to culture of English-speaking countries. It's a way to create a match between a diaspora and administrations in their countries of origin. And I think that it works really well. I'm not really sure if this model can be really transposed and used for our countries, but we could at least draw inspiration from this model. This model exists has been on the ground for 10, 12 years, and also in Latin America. And in the past, this platform was not really focusing on diaspora in general. It was more about scientific projects and research. Diaspora is a really important actor for investment, because when you say investing diaspora, you are speaking about 50% of the target. In reality, just 1% will be really able to invest. But we need to speak to everyone. So that is why we really need to change our mindset. We need to speak about investing oneself, committing. In our area, we have a problem related to marketing of our own image. This makes me think of crowdfunding platforms. Then there is also the Made Africa Hub. We need to have platforms gathering all organizations, diaspora investors, in order to do networking, to exchange good practices. I know that there are more and more platforms at local level that are created to bridge the gap of information that we were mentioning at the beginning of this meeting. And their aim is also to strengthen access to information to diaspora entrepreneurs. There is another remark from Herman Tiendrebeogo asking a question. He is an entrepreneur, diaspora entrepreneur, and he's saying that for funding applications below 300,000 euros, there is no framework. In my case, the mobilization, the capitalization of this kind of finance, so equity or debt, could enable me to launch new products on the market on West African country. How could I be supported? Well, this type of amount, well, first, we should speak about what country, what is the country in which the country is based. For example, in Morocco, we have funding up to 1 million dirham, no problem, and we can finance between 5,000 and 15,000. Then there is a gap that is at about 300,000 euros, and that becomes really problematic. And then we need to understand if there are funds, international funds from the Middle East, Europe, America, covering these countries and their sector. If there is no offer, well, that means there is no local offer. Burkina Faso, the country involved is Burkina Faso. Well, we should see if there are regional or international funds. Morocco, for example, is not targeted by many international funds. So it's not a priority. Morocco is not a priority. Alioune, would you like to add anything at all?
Excusez-moi, oui, en effet, pour compléter les propos de Naoufal, aujourd'hui, pour financer un projet inférieur à 500 000 euros,
fund a project
s'il s'agit d'un
below
projet qui démarre de zéro,
300,000 euros, if
il faut
it
être conscient
is
que, en fait,
a project starting from scratch,
on va avoir du mal à mobiliser des structures de
it's
type
going to
business
be
angel,
hard
etc. Parce
to
qu'en fait,
involve
le
business
business angel,
angels.
il fait un
Because
investissement, il
business
met également son argent à
angels,
risque.
they made an
Aujourd'hui, il aura
investment,
besoin que l'entrepreneur lui montre qu'il
today
a
they
avancé
would need to see if
un
the
tout petit peu
entrepreneur
par
has
lui-même
already
avant de vouloir investir.
done some progress on
Donc, pour un
its own,
entrepreneur
on
qui
his
démarre un
own,
projet,
before making an investment.
généralement,
So for an
on finance soi-même son
entrepreneur
projet,
starting from scratch,
on lève de
we
l'argent
fund
auprès de
his project,
ses proches, des
we
friends and family qui permettent de pouvoir démarrer le projet. Et après,
we
souvent,
help
on
him
bénéficie
start up,
comme Naoufal parlait des
then
institutions internationales, des choses comme ça, mais plus de subventions que de financement. Et c'est ça qui permet de démarrer
we try to
l'activité.
fund
Et une
some
fois qu'on est
other
en train de montrer des résultats, on peut avoir
start up
accès
with his activity.
à
And
des business
once
angels.
see the first results are
Aujourd'hui, en ce qui
visible,
concerne
well,
le
then
Burkina,
he
je
can
ne
have
connais
access
pas
to
de réseau de
business
business
angels. So
angels, mais
Burkina Faso,
il doit en
I'm
exister
not
ou il y en a
aware
qui sont en
of a business
création.
angels
Mais ces
network.
acteurs-là,
There
il faut aller
should
les
be,
contacter une fois qu'on a
but these
commencé, démarrer
actors,
déjà son projet.
they
C'est très
should
difficile de mobiliser de
be,
l'argent, une
I
somme de
mean,
ce type-là,
they
sans
could
avoir déjà démarré le projet.
be
Donc voilà, c'est ça que
involved
je
just
pourrais apporter
after
en
the
supplément
first
de
phase,
l'explication de
not
Naoufal.
ever since the beginning. Thank you, Alioune. I can see two raised hands. Could you, so Could you please all switch off the mic so that our friend can ask a question? Sorry, I was a bit late. I represent the general direction of Diaspora and in the Ivory Coast. Our office has been created ever since last year, and we have created a platform to create a link between all diaspora and businesses looking for expertise. So we work with different companies, so in the energy sector, electricity for the different bodies of the state, and we take their demands. Could you please share the link? Okay. I will share the link to the website. Okay, so at our level, we have been working with different consulates and embassies, and they sent us a database. And next year, we are going to start a new program with activities in some countries. So we are going to start with some webinars with federations of diaspora entrepreneurs, professionals. The second part of our direction, to capitalize resources of diaspora, we work with the different bodies of the state, different IPAs, and we address experts from Ivory Coast. It is true that there are not a lot of investment at this level, and then the skills, I mean, it is much easier to capitalize skills. It is important to create a system with the different bodies of the state who can support SMEs. As Alioune said, it is really important to support these business entrepreneurs. It really depends on the idea of the project. It is important to support SMEs. The problem, I would say, is communication. It is not easy to communicate with diaspora entrepreneurs because if we do not if we don't look for them, well, it's really easy to communicate with them. Next year, we are going to start a new program. Well, all the best for this nice initiative. We are going to take another 2 questions. I can see 2 raised hands. Eriomi is going to be the first one because he's been waiting for some minutes. Thank you. Yes. Your mic is off, Eriomi.
Merci pour toutes ces
Thank you for all this information. I am currently working on an offer of intermediation among people living in France who would like to invest in Africa with crowdfunding. I can see that diaspora is, in fact, has different shapes, multi-shapes, as it were. For example, I come from Benin originally. I go to Benin regularly, and I would say that I'm a second generation. diaspora, and I can see that we are more in a Pan-African logics rather than country by country based, because you can be married to a person. I mean, it's enough to be married to a person who's not from a country of origin to be entitled to invest to your countries of origin. What is the difference in the ambition or to invest since, I mean, what is the difference between first, second, third generation?
It is a really broad topic, and I mean, we could discuss them more than an hour, but we don't have much time at our disposal. So if our panelists would like to tackle that, and maybe somebody wants to invest in African, Cameroon, Benin, and yes, I imagine that previous generation diaspora have different ambitions to the ones of today and the ones of tomorrow. What I'd like to add, in order not to frustrate our the woman just spoke, we intervene a lot with the different governments on these topics. The first thing that we look at, the pertinent question, is the link. We try to define the link of a diaspora. How do we define the link? If there is no link, there is no investment. So we implemented algorithms in order to define the link. So a good customer is a customer that will come, a client will come twice or more. So what do we look at? We look at, for instance, what are the profiles that invest the most, who come back to the country the most, what's the penetration of the media and information in the origin country. So the more the link is multi-dimensional, not only based on the family, the more we are willing to support and invest. Then, of course, you're right, it is extremely complicated. There are 45 countries that are represented, and this represents more or less 800 sub-segments. If we add the criteria of age, generation, CSP profile, ethnics, and so on and so forth. So the landscape is quite complicated, and also there are marriages, of course, and it is really complex, the landscape, and the most complex things in the job, and this is the first advice we give to our clients, is to find the right anchoring point. When you start in the diaspora, you have to test, like in fishing, you have to try several rods and find the right bait and so on and so forth. So you have to carry out tests, and you fertilize this segment before to something you should never do on this market is to say that you aim to tap into every sector, like every landscape. Many do that. We receive 2 to 3 mail a day. We would like to invest in Mali, Cameroon, Benin, and this is something that you don't have to do, because we cannot do, and so we answer to them. Today, the country that sounds promising in terms of diaspora is Ivory Coast, for instance. Even if it started slowly, there is no public strategy yet. But why? Because the market is quite good. There are good signals. So there is a good political stability, and it should last. And also there is a profiling of the diaspora that we call transitory. So people who moved abroad, they went away from the political situation at the time, but they always wanted to come back. And we see that today 40% of the people in this situation say to us, in 5 years' time, we would like to go back to the to Mali, to Ivory Coast, and so on and so forth. Naoufal, you wanted to say something? In 30 seconds, yes. If we look back at a couple of decades, we used to give a lot of importance to the origin of the people, saying he want to invest because he was born in Morocco, is a Moroccan. This is true. I don't have studies in hand, but it is an experience I had. The more we are in investment, commerce, restoration, proximity, commerce, and so on and so forth, this is something that is true. But the more we go towards industry or tech, these people will not invest on that basis. The more the investment is important, the less the country is important. When there are studies that are done and the investment has to bring an income, of course, the origin country is less important because you carry out studies, you do assessment, and you invest in the country that will bring you the highest outcome. Okay, thank you very much, Naoufal. We will now move to the last question for the webinar. Sorry, I lost the question.
Thank you.
Yes, Cindy Schwa. I hope I haven't mangled your name.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the powerful presentations. Mine is going to just be, yes. My name is Cindy Swamzamo. I'm the Global President for the Sector of Global Business Women, an organization that is based in South Africa and working with Europe and the globe and the continent on women leadership and empowerment. But also what I want just to raise is in the works my colleagues that you've been doing. I mean, if you look at the African continent, we have an aging population as we speak right now, but we have about 67% of young people in the continent, which should be the future leaders of tomorrow. In the work that you do you have a strategy that you work on the youth strategy in terms of skills? Because that's the people that need to be skilled for the future. And how do you can give us an advice, for example, for a women organization like the Sector of Global Business Women, because that's the next level that we want to actually take, to really concentrate on building capacity and skills development in the continent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Samir, Alioune, would you like to answer? But in a few words, please.
Much okay. Alioune. Maybe I can, share. I would say my experience on this. In terms of education and growing the skill set. What we have noticed, on our side is that the best way to grow skills within a group is really to help them interact with somebody that has, the experience and that has, done the type of task in the past. And I say this within the startup industry, where the fact that having somebody that has built somewhere, not necessarily in Africa, that has built a startup, that has organized it, that has grown it, and that has sold it, can be a very good mentor to people who are in that ecosystem in Africa, and they can grow and learn skills from his experience. So this mentoring programs and this advice, I would say, is really, in my opinion, a very good way to grow the collective skill set by having people who have had the experiences in the past interact with people who are starting or who are learning. That's what I would say. I hope it's helpful.
Thank you very much. Yes.
You're welcome. Donc je vais à présent voilà.
So I have to close this webinar now. I would like to thank you very, very much. Thank all the panelists for your exchanges, your information, the information you've given to the participants. Thank you very much for taking the floor and interacting with us. So I'd like to remind you that Meet Africa is a program for diaspora in Europe that wish to invest in countries in Africa. I would like to thank our funders, the National Agency for the Development of the European Union, and also Expertise France. I'd like to for you to save the date for the next webinar in January, that on impact rating, which is a solution for scoring rating the investments. And then at the end of January in Meet Africa, in beginning of February, sorry, the forum for diaspora investors that will be held the 11th of February in Port-Maillot in France, in Paris. Do not hesitate to consult our forum and to ask all the questions you might have in order to give you support. Thank you very much to all of you, and season greetings to all of you. Have a good holidays if you're taking any, and see you soon. Bye. Bye-bye.